How long is the longest friendship?
This is the Nightcrawler. This one's for you, Nicholas.
This one's for you, Nicola. It's Nicola always.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lacroix always refers to him as
Nicolas.
Nicolas.
Sometimes he'll go Nicholas, but only when he's being really, really angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So,
All right, second half. Well, intro. Welcome back, friends.
this is season 1, episode 2 of Forever Night, Dark Knight Part 2, which we just watched. So this is hot, fresh commentary coming at you straight off watching this
Steamy.
steamy episode. It was quite steamy. It's quite a bit steamier than Nick Knight.
Oh, yes.
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 Yeah. Part of that is just the actor playing Nick Knight is significantly better at drumming up sex appeal and like sexual tension.
I think any emotion. Okay, so...
That's because he's not leaning on being Rick Springfield.
Right, and Geraint.
Geraint.
Yes.
Yes. He always says it's
was
like pear pint. Like pear pint. Geraint.
But he was a stage actor,
Yes.
like many of our favorite actors.
Yes. He's a
He was-
Shakespearean stage actor, no less.
Right.
Yes.
And so he's much more like emotive with his body.
Yes.
There's a lot of touching. There's just a lot of big gestures because you can't do nuanced.
He's acting for
just
the people in the back.
Gestures for, you can't do nuanced gestures on a stage because people don't pick it up. You got to move your whole body around and actually like interact with other people's bodies.
Like Matt when he's recording a podcast that nobody's going to see.
This chair is almost moving
It
because
is.
I'm gesturing so much.
Yeah. But wait. Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. Had to squeeze that in before we really got going because I'd hate to not use our theme song.
Yeah, we didn't want to miss the intro.
Right. All right, so we're going to try no synopsis because this is such a short form. I feel like we can just chat this out.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, intro credits and boom, we're right into the. He had gotten the address from.
It's CERK. He hadn't gotten the address. He didn't get the address from her this time.
Oh,
But
she
when
didn't write it down for him.
yeah, but when he's listening to the radio, he
recognizes.
recognized the radio station.
So, we open to an alleyway. Lacroix at the end.
Yeah, we get the follow me scene, but we
Nick
don't
follows
end up,
him. It's more of a
Like a
butcher
butcher
shop
shop.
instead
Yeah.
of a slaughterhouse. There's still, a vat of blood underneath a suspended body, whatever.
Right.
Lacroix offers him a drink.
And Elise seems a lot less foolish in this because
Naive?
I don't know, because we don't get the whole previous scene where she's in the car with him and he tells her to wait in the car and she just immediately hops
Right,
out.
because he snuck.
Yeah.
She snuck after him.
It's more
in
of
her
a
own car.
she's been sneaking this whole time and they don't notice her right away. They don't notice her
She's
until
watching from the catwalk.
Yeah, and Lacroix, who I will die on this hill, is the better version of Lacroix.
Okay, so I was looking at IMDb, and this show had 1 award win and 14 nominations. The 1 win was for Lacroix
Yes.
as Best Supporting Actor
Yeah, Nigel Bennett.
for Nigel Bennett.
Yes.
And he deserves it.
Oh, he does. He sells it. And this isn't even peak Lacroix.
Right.
It's gonna get
if
better.
there's one award for this entire show,
Yeah.
it is for Lacroix as best supporting actor.
Right, because this interaction here where he's trying to force Nicholas into facing his nature, where he like holds him down and pours blood on his face, is so dramatic and so well done. And then he vamps out, and that's when Elise screams.
Yes. And so then he does the, what do you want more? The girl or your immortality?
Yeah, or the cup. And instead of doing the like, whoops, these butterfingers, where he like drops it
Like
from
he
Nick
actually
Knight.
waits for Nick
Yes.
to stand up.
He's actually holding Elise. He's holding
Yeah.
the cup. He waits for Nick to have a moment, and then he's like, okay, now choose.
And then he drops it, and Nick has a chance to go for either. Whereas in the movie, Nick was prone. He
Yeah.
dropped the cup, it smashed. And then it's like, choose. Well,
Yeah,
the cup's
yeah.
already broken.
We get more of a dramatic
Yeah.
pause, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go from there to he's running out in the sunlight.
Oh, yeah, and he hops in the trunk.
Right. And he's actually like burning in the sunlight. He's like smoking.
So
Which he's charred.
he
He's
gets
mildly
out-
charred
he
for the
gets
rest
out,
of this.
He has like a black smudge on his cheek, and then he
Yes.
has like a random black. Like they're all the smudges are the same exact shape. Just
Yeah.
it's like they had a sponge, an oval
just hit him with
sponge,
it, yeah.
and they just went. Bop, 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 bop,
Yeah,
bop,
yeah.
bop,
Now you charred. There you go,
yeah.
son.
Your
Yeah.
shirt's all your white shirt is all charred. Although it's like whenever he's on duty, he's wearing just like a jersey white t-shirt. But then whenever he's in his apartment, he's wearing that like very blousy, like billowy
Look,
sleeve.
he can be himself at home, okay? Like he's just letting it.
But he's wearing the same pants.
He's an 18th century gentleman at heart. He just got to express it somewhere. But he's got the duster coat, and he wears the duster coat this entire episode.
Yeah, with the high collar.
Yeah, with the high collar and the
Very
like,
reminiscent
wide-
of like medieval Dracula like cloak.
I don't need
with
this
the high
kind. No,
collar.
I don't need this kind of negativity. But it's like the wide shoulder, like cape. It's cape like.
Yes. It's the coat with like the capelet.
Yeah.
Down to like
I mean, he works
mid-upper
it.
arm. Yeah.
He works it. It's good. Yeah.
It's for airflow.
Yeah.
You have ventilation from underneath the capelet.
Yeah. For when you're flying
No, for when like you're horse riding, like
or flying, which he does
or
again.
flying.
Yeah. So after we get that, he's in the trunk of his car, and we get a scene with Skanky where Skanky picks the car up because they've towed his car because it was illegally parked, of course. And so we get the same dialogue where he's talking about a memory of being in a car like this before. The bicentennial summer of 1976. But he's like walking along the car and like
Stroking it sensually.
lovingly. And we really draw out this dialogue instead of just delivering it kind of preemptively. And we also get our Between You, Me, and the Lamppost, which I warned you about.
Yes, and this is so this Skanky, this iteration of Skanky is a little more plump,
Yeah.
a little more bald, a little more nostalgic for the
times gone by.
yeah.
Yeah, so he just lovingly strokes this car, and then when he gets in it and he just takes a finger and he rubs his finger around the edge of the steering wheel, and by the time the guy shows up with the keys and he's like, "Here's your keys, Mr. Memory." You're like,
that's all it is.
you believe that he's going to drive this car because he just needs this moment in this car, and not as like, well, I guess I'm going to drive Knight's car. It's more like, oh, a Cadillac.
Right, and he's driving the car because of nostalgia, not because Nick Knight, I'm so inconvenienced right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get something fun out of this.
Right.
Nice. Dispatch, this is 81 Kilo. I think I'm gonna tool around a Knight's caddy for a while. Just let me know when he turns up, okay? Thanks.
And then we keep getting clips of Nick in the trunk to remind us that he's in there. And we got the same thing in Nick Knight, but he's like doing stuff in the trunk. He's like cleaning his face and whatever. So it's for some reason him just like lying on his side in the trunk in this to me feels
Right. At
so
one
much
point,
more.
he looks asleep.
Yeah, he's asleep because he's like, I'm in here for the day, so here I go. And then they go to the hospital, And he gets out of the trunk. And instead of changing his shirt like he does when he's Rick Springfield, he
Right.
just shuts the trunk and there's an old lady standing
Right.
there.
And instead of like charming the old lady because he's changing his shirt, he just says, not much room, but you can't beat the rent.
Right.
And she just looks very confused.
And then he just leaves. He's like, and that's I got nothing else to say. And then he goes up and he hears Skanky.
Right. So in the movie, he had just gone to Dr. Kemper's office and got on the computer. And there's no
Kipper.
connection. Kipper.
Kipper like the
Okay.
fish.
He'd gone to Dr. Kipper's office, and there's no connection to Skanky's parallel conversation. But here, he gets like a faraway look as he uses his vampire hearing.
What do you hear with your vampire ears?
Oh, Dr. Kipper has the records in his office. Oh, okay.
Oh,
And so-
conveniently. Here's Dr. Kipper's
and then,
office.
And then the door's not unlocked.
Right.
The door is locked, but
He breaks the lock.
he uses his vampire strength.
Right. We get a little bit more. Hey, guys, there's some perks. Look at his vampire powers. He has,
Ka-chunk.
Ka-chunk.
Break the lock.
right, but the window's open. So he's like,
Yeah, he opens the door and sunlight.
Yeah.
He goes and closes the blinds.
yeah, he just has to pull the blinds.
And then he starts hacking.
Right. He uses hacking.
'Cause
I think
he
it's
uses
just
his
open.
vampire
I
hacking
think it's just
skills.
open to the records. And he's like, boop, boop, there they are. Okay. And then he calls.
Right, that would be the only thing that computer was used
Right.
for.
Then he calls Natalie and he's like, yeah, Skanky's right. They're all donors.
Yeah, all the homeless people are donors.
And he's like, I talked to LaCroix about it, which he talks to LaCroix about it. And he's like, how come you're lying about killing the homeless people? And LaCroix's like, I wouldn't lie.
He says, I've never been ashamed of killing.
He's like, I wouldn't. Why would I lie? I don't care that I killed them. I'd just flaunt that shit. He's like, trust me. And Nick's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you wouldn't. No, you definitely just rubbed my face. in
Damn,
that.
I had that wrong.
Damn, I had that one wrong. And so it turns out, hey guys, Skanky's right. Yeah, that's the blood donors. They're all connected. And so we skip the scene where he goes back to the car, but we do get the scene where Skanky's talking to.
Oh, yeah,
Kenner.
he's on the
Kenner.
phone with Natalie, and he's like, my ride's about to leave.
Yeah, I got to go. She's like, you sound weak. Have you eaten anything? And he goes, oh, are you kidding me? Hospital food? Which I wouldn't either because all of this blood is improperly stored.
So, yeah, we had the scene where Fenner comes in with the blood, and it's in like the styrofoam cooler thing, but
At the
there's no
top of
lid on it.
It's like sticking out the top of it and there's no lid.
The blood bags are sticking out the top. Like there's so many blood bags in here that we can't fit the top on.
and they're all
so
just
we're not
lying
even gonna
about.
try.
They're just lying about in the hallway.
Yeah, there's just coolers of blood bags
there's,
sticking out.
There's side tables. There's a couple on there. They're just sort of everywhere.
And they come back. It's like hours later. And that styrofoam cooler with blood bags in it that Dr. Fenner, I don't know, I don't think he's a doctor.
Nah,
but
yeah.
Fenner brought in. Hours later, they're just sitting there. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well,
okay.
one hopes maybe a second box of improperly stored blood bags arrived. I
Right,
don't know if
but-
you wish for that or if you wish only one. I don't know.
Like, okay, so Fenner's whole thing is that his mother died
Right.
because of bad blood.
Yeah.
But then he's bringing in a cooler of blood that's not properly stored.
Right.
It's like, who's to blame for the bad blood, Fenner?
Yeah. Maybe the improperly storing guy.
It's probably not the homeless people.
Matt also pointed out that there is a poster on the wall behind the desk at the blood bank about AIDS,
Right.
which we are right in the midst of the AIDS
Yes,
crisis.
the 90s.
90s, which was a huge deal.
Right, and
Super traumatic. Super.
U.S. television wouldn't even mention it at
No.
all. But this is Canadian television.
This is a real subtle nod, but it's there. And it's like, it is
And
all
there's
of
a
our
whole
problems.
AIDS episode. you
There
said.
will be, yes.
There will be.
Yeah, we're not going to get there till season 3, but we are going to talk about AIDS. And I think it's looking, but when I watched it when I was younger, because I was so young during the 90s, it didn't have the impact that going back and watching it now was like, wow, they were willing to talk about this in 1995 or 96 when it was filmed, which was big balls for the time. So, but we're not going to get there for Many moons.
It'll be a while.
It'll be a while. But I thought you pointed that out. I'd never noticed it before, but I thought that was interesting that they had that there. So from there, Nick's back in the trunk. And he hears the guy with the keys, which this time he's not improbably like chucking these keys around he has a key jangling compulsion.
It's like spinning them on his finger.
They're clipped to his belt and they
and they jangle when he walks.
So he hears them jangling, and then Skanky gets in the car and he turns on some polka.
Which, of course, Skanky listens to polka.
And Nick
which
has
is
totally on point. A torture scene where he's like screaming silently with his
got his hands clasped over his ears and like,
So we get like polka while he's driving around town, and then the
brakes fail.
And then I noted, which I don't know if I just hadn't noticed before, is what we've lost as a culture is the
dramatic fadeaway.
The commercial break cliffhanger. Because we get like a zoom in on Skanky's face. We hear some honking horns.
He's going, no, no, no.
And then we fade to black. Because this was where the commercial break fell. And so this was to get you back after you'd peed, gotten a snack, refilled your drink.
Yeah, I told Rachel you don't have to rush to pee anymore.
No, and you have that one person still on the couch.
Bladder health is way up.
That one person on the couch that's like, guys, it's back on! And you all had to run back and because you were going to miss it.
My stuff's not done in the microwave.
Aw, yeah. So we get the dramatic fade to black, but we don't actually see any of what happens. But when we come back... And
it's in the body shop.
It's in the body shop, and he's pointing out the dents. And every time the body shop technician points out the dents, Skanky's like, oh, yeah, that's the Ferrari. Oh, yeah, that was a Lincoln Town car. And he's like, who just leaves a 30-foot camper in the front yard or whatever? And so he walks us through it with that visual.
Right, rather than showing it.
Right, which is really, it's great. And then he walks away slightly instead of the improbable idea that Skanky's leaning against this car and he doesn't feel Nick Knight climbing out of the trunk and shutting the trunk behind him.
Yeah, he walks around the corner.
Yeah, he's actually walked slightly away, and then he hears Skanky.
And there's Nick right behind him.
And he's like, oh no, he's going to kill me.
Oh man, he is going to kill me. Worse still, he's going to make me pay for it. Skanky. I'm a dead man.
He turns around and there's Nick Knight.
And so he starts making excuses.
Yeah.
He starts trying to explain himself, and Nick's examining each spot. And then Skanky's still trying to justify himself and not, I guess, stop Nick from killing him or whatever.
From yelling at him, being angry at him, making him pay for
it. And Nick's like, oh, the brake line was cut.
And he's like, see, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah, the brake line was cut, so it wasn't my fault. Wait, the brake line was cut?
Skanky. Honest to God, Nick. I was only going to drive it to the station, but the hospital was on its way, and I said, why not? This kills me. This kills me more than it kills you.
This chemistry works so much better.
Yeah.
These two guys have so much buddy-buddy chemistry, and they're going to. And it works so well. When he's aggressively walking around the car and just touching all the spots where it's damaged.
Right, with stoic expression on his face.
While Skanky is getting more and more and more frantic and worked up. It just works so well that when he's finally the brake line was cut. Skanky's like, well, yeah, obviously the brake line was cut. It has so much more impact than in the movie where they're really, we hadn't established any chemistry. So this moment only feels like Skanky getting kind of what was coming to him instead of Skanky's a generally nice guy and this bad thing happened to him. And he just feels bad that he wrecked this guy's car because he was
whereas in the
driving
TV
it
show,
for this big
Skanky
nostalgia
was
moment.
much more the I'm in the early middle of my career and I'm aggressively pursuing advancement and I need success and I need wins on my cases.
Yeah.
This is more midlife crisis Skanky.
Yeah.
Where he's had all his big cases. He's just trying to, keep to the grind and just stay a little bit out of trouble.
Right.
And now this bad thing happened to him.
Right.
Yeah.
It was cut. By who?
By the guy we're looking for. You're right, Skanky.
I knew I was right.
The murder in the museum was a different killer.
He was?
Typo and Homeless, they were the keys all along.
I knew that.
I know.
Yeah, and so from there, they go back to the blood bank because they've got to figure out who cut his brake line.
Right. So they want to find out who was there at the
Who
hospital.
could have done it?
When Skanky was there.
Right. So they go back, and we talk to the lady behind the desk, Nick and Skanky together, and they have far more success this time.
Yep. They
And-
find out it was Fenner, the guy who drives
Yes.
the blood bank truck.
Right. And we talk about how his mother died because of bad blood, and Nick immediately calls it in. I think he picks up the
APB.
phone. Yeah, that they need to go find Fenner. Well, meanwhile, Elise is at Nick's apartment because she, again, looked him up in the yellow pages.
So in the movie, she shows up at his apartment and
Yes.
is able to get in. And you have to infer that, oh, yeah, Nick said in like the second scene of the movie,
That his alarm code was on
the same digits on
Stella.
this like Mayan tablet were the same as his alarm code.
Right.
Here we spell it out where she's like, oh, I'm going to look him up in the yellow pages. And then she goes over to the tablet. Oh, yeah, his alarm code. And she actually writes out the numbers.
Right.
And then she goes and punches them in at his house.
Pippin's food is dispensing. Just a moment.
All right, I'll repeat that.
Yeah.
So then she goes to the Mayan tablet and actually writes out the digits of his alarm code, then goes to his building and punches those numbers in and gets in.
Right. And then she gets out of this sliding door, which this is our set, right? This is where Nick lives for 3 seasons. Is this supposed to be an elevator? Are there stairs that people walk up? Because often we'll have an aerial view of people coming in out this door, and there's no seam like it's an elevator. But we sort of treat it like it's an elevator.
Oh, right. Yes, there's like the folding door, like the accordion folding door,
Yeah.
but it's just a room on the other side.
It's just a room. But I don't know if like around the corner, because later,
I think there was one scene we watched where you mentioned it, and it was like when you're leaving the apartment and you walk through this folding door into this room, to the left, it looks like there might be a door frame on the wall.
yeah, I think that like you walk through
Just
the
out of
sliding
frame.
door and there is an elevator just out of frame, because also to the right of his sliding door is an elevated door. And I think that's the stairs.
Like to the roof?
Or up and down. Just like the stairs in
Oh,
case
the
the
stairwell
elevator
for
is
the
out of
building.
service. Yeah.
Okay.
That didn't really matter. It's just one of those like, how does that work? Because he is going to ride, like we're going to have a couple dramatic elevator scenes where people are riding in the elevator up to his apartment. So there has got to be an elevator, but he's in like a loft space. So there's definitely like a space below
Right.
him.
He's like penthouse or something.
Yeah.
He's high up in a building.
Right. And he does have a skylight, although
It's so he can see the sunrise.
and he does have a skylight because we dramatically use the skylight.
That's right. So he has to be in the penthouse.
Right. So he's got to be in the penthouse. Well, anyway, so Elise is there either way, whether she got up via the elevator or whatnot. And
And then there's a banging on the
there's
door.
a banging on the door, and she thinks it's Nick. And she's like, if you're trying to scare me again, it's working. Because the last time he did this, he scared the pants out of her.
And she said, hold me.
yeah. So maybe he was going for that again. I don't know. But she slides open the door, and it's Jeannie. And Jeannie's all beat up, and she's on the ground. And she looks far more beat up than the Jeannie in the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
Jeannie in the movie was actually able to walk in, but she's laying on the floor, like
Yeah.
bleeding out the side of her head.
Yeah. So Elise brings her in.
And we don't explain how she got hurt.
Yeah, we do. When she was with Topper.
Oh, she got, but this
Yeah,
was like
because she
2 days
screams
before.
like, Topper. No, it hasn't been that long.
It's just felt that long.
It's just felt that long. Because it's right after they find Topper's body that Nick leaves. He like leaves to go find where LaCroix is because he's all mad.
Right, but he's been in the car all day. and
He's
it
been
was
in the car
night
all day. So
before.
this is the, yeah.
So
it's-
she's been stumbling through the city for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Took her that long. She's damaged, okay? Took her that long to get there.
It's Toronto. It's a big city.
So she gets there. Anyway, however she did this, on whatever timeline. And Elise brings her in and puts her on the couch. And then she turns on the fire with the remote control.
The same remote control that opens the windows
Yes.
and closes them. Yeah.
This is the 90s. Things are high tech, okay? And she's like, I don't think he's ever used this before. But the pilot light's lit. So that's a dumb assumption. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be like he doesn't like fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good reference.
Because in the scene where he stakes Lacroix onto the wall, which is the
right before he stakes Lacroix.
Lacroix lists how they can die. He's like,
Right.
you could get staked.
If
could
you
get
really
burned."
want mortality, then you just want to die. I can solve that problem for you.
Right.
Here's the list of how vampires can die.
Congratulations.
And one
Did
more.
everybody catch it?
Decapitation.
Yeah, and he tries to decapitate him with a butcher knife. And then Nick like throws him against the spikes. And he looks dead. Like he's convincingly dead.
Yeah, and then
until Nick leaves, and
Nick
then he
walks off camera, and then you zoom in on Lacroix's face, and slowly the like dead expression turns into like this slow smirk, like
Yeah.
I got him.
got you. And it's so much better than the weird like orgasm laugh that we got from the Lacroix in Nick Knight, because it's like, ha, got you. And you can tell. And then he's listening to the radio the next night, remember? And it's like, I'm filling in for the Nightcrawler. Hey, buddy, what's wrong? Call in if you hear
you're
this.
around, call in.
So he's like, oh, good, yeah. Whew, I got him.
And I got independent verification that
Yeah.
Lacroix is out of service.
Out of service somehow, whether he's deceased or whatever. So he checks his messages from the blood bank after they rush off to go find Fenner. And Elise hears him checking his messages because he checked his messages remotely. And you can tell because he doesn't actually get all the way through the, there's no tape rewinding sound this time.
Right.
But it doesn't make it all the way through his like recorded greeting. And so that's how she knows he's listening to his messages. And so she goes and picks up the phone, and he actually sounds mystified. Like in Nick Knight, he just sounds angry. He's like, why are you there? Instead, he's like, Elise, well, why are you at my apartment? And she's like, well, I'm here and Jeannie's here. And he's like, oh my God, Jeannie's okay. Like he actually sounds invested. The Nick Knight, Rick Springfield's Nick Knight, you kind of feel like he's forgotten about Jeannie and Topper. Like they were fun little pets, but now that they're troublesome, he hasn't remembered them. But he actually sounds like happy that Jeannie is there. And so he's rushing off to the apartment. I don't think because he knows Fenner's there.
He does not know Fenner is there.
No, it's not.
He's
the same.
only rushing there because Jeannie is there.
Right.
And Jeannie and Topper were his friends.
Right. So we don't get the like, oh, she's called 911. And oh, I think she's actually letting somebody up. Anyway, he rushes there for whatever.
I think in the TV version, it's in a different order. She
Yeah.
gets off the phone with Nick, and then the doorbell rings, and then at first I thought she was saying, "Oh, is that Nick?" But no, it's like ambulance.
Right. So she lets Fenner up, and Fenner's doing some dramatic stuff. And then Jeannie tries to light him on fire with the broom again.
But he just tosses it to the side onto the haphazard volatile chemicals.
Yeah, after he's thrown Elise at them. So she's like behind the table, stuck in the corner.
Yeah, knocked the painting supplies off the table.
Right, and there's like a roaring inferno in this concrete brick room that nobody can get past, apparently. And so Nick shows up, and he almost bites Fenner. We get like a,
but he
really
gets
wanna
like
kill this guy.
a disgusted look on his face as he pulls away.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it. And then he ends up getting Jeannie up on her feet and having her run. And then he jumps over the table to get to Elise. And when he turns around.
And now this scene, we're hearing this like Lacroix monologuing at Nick.
Well, Lacroix just shows up right now.
Okay,
And he
Lacroix
kills
drains
Fenner.
Fenner.
Yeah, he still
and
does
then Lacroix starts monologuing at Nick.
Yes.
About how he needs to like be stronger. He needs to like actually eat. He's like, you're weak. when was the last time you fed? And so Elise is picking up on this, like, oh, right. So I saw him at the slaughterhouse, at the butcher shop, whatever. He totally vamped out, and he didn't eat Fenner when he could have. Okay, so he's not eating blood, but this guy's beating the crap out of him. And she's like, take me. In more ways than one.
And it's so much better
right,
than
so then
than Elise's like rip my shoulder of my sleeve, my shirt down and be like, yeah, just go ahead, do it. She's like,
so Lacroix is monologuing at Nick. You need to eat so you can be strong, so you can defeat me. And Elise is like, you need to eat me so that you can defeat him, and maybe I'll become a vampire, whatever, but it's your only chance. And so, and then we're flashing back and forth between Lacroix and Elise, both telling him to do the same thing, which is eat Elise. But then we also flash back to his origin scene where he's getting ready to feed from the lady on the altar. And so it's this, like, there's the angel and the devil on his shoulder, but they're telling him to do the same thing.
Right.
And they're both telling him to do a thing that he has already done before.
right.
And
And there's like a heartbeat in the background.
yeah,
and it's
so the
this
tension is just building
yeah.
through this scene way better than in the movie.
Oh yeah, you feel it.
Yeah.
You feel, because we get the like driving, like subtle heartbeat in the background, and like Elise is telling him, and Lacroix's sultry tones are telling him, and
then
he's
he
remembering what it would
has
be
his
like.
face in Elisa's neck. He's ready, and then he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And so he pushes her away and goes after
You're not
Lacroix
gonna
with
get
a
me,
flaming stick.
everybody.
And Lacroix's like, "You think you can defeat me as a mortal?"
and he can't, because Lacroix just like bitch slaps him into the corner and he passes out.
And then Lacroix throws the flaming stick at him, and it sticks into the concrete wall.
I contend that this is some kind of like paneling around the bottom that it sticks in.
Yeah, it looks like maybe it's like gray painted, like beadboard or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
He's
the
Lacroix.
color kind of looks like cast concrete.
He's Lacroix. If anybody
Everything
could
else is
stick a wood
concrete.
pole through a concrete wall, it'd be Lacroix.
Right.
So just
So then Lacroix
Go with
is
it.
getting ready to bite Elise.
right, and this is really drawn out too, because like her ear is bleeding, so he like licks her neck and then looks over at Nick like,
And it's like,
oh
so
yeah, this
Lacroix.
gonna be good.
Just taunting Nick.
Oh yeah,
And then Nick gets riled up enough, like the earlier scene. What is it going to take to get a rise out of you?
right. So he Lacroix actually does bite Elise, but we only get a moment of it before Nick like runs up and stabs
Him.
stakes Lacroix.
Stakes Lacroix.
Yes, with this wooden flaming.
And then pins
it's
him, I think, to a door.
So much more personal
Yeah,
because he
because
doesn't throw
he's
it.
not throwing it like a javelin.
No.
He's up there like a spear.
Yeah, he spears him with it, and then he's like, "Burn in hell." And he's like, he says, "Va diable."
Damn you. Burn in hell. Vile diable.
Like go to the devil, like to the devil with you. And then he like stakes him against the wall, and Lacroix bursts into flames.
And then you see his clothes drop to the floor.
Yeah, he dissolves into ash. And that's not the end of Lacroix. But it's the end of Lacroix for a little while.
For season 1.
It takes a little while to come back from being completely turned into ashes, I guess. So he's got some recoup time, which is approximately the length of season 1. We are going to see him in flashback, so don't worry, you won't be jonesing for too long. But yeah, he kills Lacroix. And then we cut to...
him and Natalie in the museum.
Yeah, wrapping
He
up.
has his jade cup
Yeah, he's
right.
donated it to the museum
in honor of Elise.
in honor of Elise.
Lacroix and Elise were the lucky ones.
So then they're leaving, and Skanky alludes to the fact that when they arrived at the scene, Nick was unconscious and he needed a blood transfusion. And so now he's got
And so Natalie gave him a blood transfusion.
2 pints of grade A Skanky flowing in his veins.
Do you realize you got a pint of grade A skanky running through you?
What? The transfusion?
No, you didn't.
Sorry, he was the only available donor.
And Nick looks super
Natalie,
disgusted.
the coroner,
Yeah.
gave him a blood
Oh, she does a
transfusion.
bunch of doctory stuff. Everyone just like, because she's a doctor. I mean, she's Dr. Lambert. She
Right,
just works on
and-
dead people, which I guess it works for Nick because he's a dead guy.
There was a show where the coroner was an MD, but they couldn't handle working on living bodies. And I can't remember
She's
what.
a medical doctor. I mean, she's Dr. Lambert.
Right, but I can't
Yeah.
remember what show that was.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank as well. But yeah, so she did the blood transfusion because she was there and she could do it. She's a trained medical doctor. She just happens to work on dead people most of the time. And so Nick looks super disgusted. And Skanky's like, that's right. You're not going to be able to walk by a souvlaki stand without having to get one.
All right, so then they're walking down the stairs, and then we pan up to the, like, there's a dome on the museum.
Well, we get
And
a little
there's windows.
Yeah, but we get a little palling around first before we get
Yeah,
this
there's
big
some
reveal.
palling around.
Yeah, we get some palling
They
around.
go down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then we pan up to look at one of these windows in the dome. And in the window in the dome is Vampire Elise.
Vampire Elise, which I successfully hid from Matt this entire time. So it was a reveal for
Yeah,
him.
kudos.
Thanks. Yeah, Elise, who did not die.
Which I was wondering because when we watched the movie, you were like, I'm not sure if Elise dies at the end.
I tried so hard.
And so I was thinking there's no way Rachel doesn't remember because Rachel has like a photographic memory for movies. And so I was a little suspicious, but then I kind of forgot until just
Which
now.
I can always rely on as a consistent real life plot mechanism is Matt knew, but Matt won't know for long. So it's fine.
Okay, so that was episode 2, the
Yeah.
end of the plot from Nick Knight the movie.
How did you feel? Like overall, how are you feeling going into episode 3?
I thought episode 2 was better than episode 1.
Right.
And episode 2 was also better than the movie.
Yeah, these 2 episodes feel obligatory. They feel like we needed to re-record the first 2 episodes, the pilot, so we know where we're going.
Right.
And we've actually lost one of the writers between Nick Knight and Dark Knight. So it's still credited to 2 guys.
Oh, right, yeah, because it was 2 creators. 2 guys
Right.
created the show
So I think
concept,
the tonal
and
shift
one
is also
of the
we're not
writers
dealing
left.
with 2 writers either.
Right.
So, and I just love the new main actor so much more than Rick Springfield. But I'm excited to get into season 3 because I feel like this is really episode 1. Like episode 1 and 2 are episode 1 and 2, but we haven't gotten into Forever Night. We were still
Right, it's the
rehashing
pilot.
Nick Knight. Yes. So I guess we'll just leave it there so
Yeah.
we can keep it a mini episode. Oh, God,
Hey, man, we're less than an hour
we're
again.
doing really good at this mini episode thing. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll see you next time, friends.
Remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful, too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye. Pippin doesn't want you. knows you're full of BS.
Everyone knows I'm full of BS.
I win.
Mine just weren't caught on microphone.
Yeah, whatever. Should I push record?
Excuses.
All right, you ready? We warmed up?